All right, welcome to Touchdown Talks. I'm Spencer Taylor. This is going to be a Friday edition of Touchdown Talks. Recording this Thursday night. The Thursday night games of preseason week 1 have finished. I'm not going to talk a whole ton about those, but this will be, as I said, the second episode of this week. So we're really ramping up. Football is basically back, not fully yet. High school is just about to get into swing. College still a few weeks away. And for the NFL, we are, as of the time of this video going live, a month exactly away from the first Sunday of NFL football, less than a month away exactly from when the NFL season will kick off on Thursday in September. That'll be September 5th, kicking off with the Ravens and Chiefs. But anyways, we are really ramping up. So as I said, I mean, this being the second episode of this week, a ramped up pace from what has been the last few months, of course, over the off season. But from here on, the pace is only going to keep going up. And so this episode, don't want to take this very long, but just have a few things I wanted to talk about that have come up over the last couple days. Going to start out with some headlines out of the New York Jets with their preseason. Thursday, head coach Robert Saleh held quarterback Aaron Rodgers out of practice. It was their joint practice with the Commanders, as the Commanders Jets are preparing to play each other preseason week 1 here on Saturday will be the day of their game. But with the Jets and Commanders, as I said, it's their week together. The way the preseason structure works, at least currently in the NFL, the 3 preseason games each week, both teams will have a joint practice at least one time during that week. So for Thursday, that Thursday was the day that for the Jets and Commanders, they met up together to practice together. Of course, with these practices, one of the concerns is it's a little bit heightened pressure. You know, it's not quite the same level as a game, of course, or even a preseason game, but it's still a higher level than just normal practice against your own team. So there's extra concern for injuries and things like that. And so because of that, out of that precaution and concern, head coach Robert Saleh decided to hold Rodgers out. He claimed in a press conference, said that Aaron Rodgers pushed back. He pushed back, but it was his choice to hold Aaron Rodgers out. You know, Saleh's reasoning is that they got plenty of time. They've still got about a month to prepare for the opening of the season, which for them will be on the road in San Francisco. Saleh feels like they've got enough time to get Rodgers going again. You know, he's been practicing to whatever extent they've had him each day, but you know, he said specifically that he didn't want to expose Rodgers to any excess risk, being that this wasn't an extra practice. They don't have the full control of, you know, obviously he doesn't have full control over what Commanders players are going to do. Obviously, Jets players are going to know, you know, don't hit Aaron Rodgers, don't hurt him, you know, but the Commanders don't have that same incentive and threat, obviously, and so it's a fair concern. So Saul held him out on Thursday against the Commanders for practice. It remains to be seen what the Jets will do with Rodgers in their other 2 remaining joint practices, both with the Panthers and with the Giants in the upcoming weeks. But reason to believe that maybe they'll hold him out. But the other reason was that it was rainy in New Jersey today, so that was the other reason why they held Aaron Rodgers out, was rain being the reason. But so combination of rain and the heightened environment, Saleh decided he didn't want to risk it with Rodgers, and so they held him out. And you know, the debate today that I've seen is, you know, how was it a worthwhile to take him out or not? Was it a big deal or no? I think it's fair to say it's not really that big of a deal. But at the same time, though, if you're a Jets fan, I'd say it would be hard to not be concerned, certainly going into this offseason. You know, there's a lot of hopes on the Jets. I know there's a lot of people in the media, certainly Jets fans, that are very optimistic about the Jets' chances this year, just as everybody was last year going into the season. You know, you got the Jets with Aaron Rodgers, and even outside of Aaron Rodgers, they've had a pretty good defense, pretty good talent in other parts of the team, and even without good quarterback play, they've done pretty well for having the bad quarterback play that they have had in the last couple of years. But the concern, of course, going in here is Aaron Rodgers only lasted four snaps last season before going out with the Achilles injury. He's still coming back from it right now, and of course that's part of why they're being so cautious. But you know, I mean, if you're a Jets fan, I could see how it would be pretty hard to not be a little bit concerned. Certainly because, you know, you want Aaron to be careful. I mean, really the true game with, I mean, I could see the concern. The real game with the preseason, of course, is to, you know, figure out what third stringers and stuff like that you're going to keep. You know, who's going to fit into the 53-man roster, or whatever the size is now. I can't remember if it's been bumped up slightly or not. But all these teams have rosters currently that are much higher than what they're going to be in a month from now. A lot of players are going to get cut, and so that's really what the preseason's for, is just getting those last few guys onto your roster, figuring that kind of stuff out. Warming up guys, warming up the starters a little bit, but the main game is getting through the preseason without too many injuries, especially key ones. You don't want any of those. So, and I mean, I'm going to mention a couple of them that are, a couple teams that already have some key names that there might be a little bit of concern for, but yeah. So with Rodgers, makes sense to be cautious, but obviously, even once he does come back in, and once they are into the regular season, it's going to be, I imagine, a stressful little, especially that first month, a stressful little bit of time watching Aaron Rodgers and just hoping that he can stay healthy and that things work out okay. Especially being that the schedule makers didn't make it easy for the Jets. They do start out the season. Their first 3 games happen within 11 days. So their first game in San Francisco on September 9th, and then so that's a Monday night game, Monday night week 1. Then they turn around right away and go play Sunday night on the road against the Titans. So that'll be September 15th, and then on Thursday of week 3 they play at home against the Patriots. So within 11 days, Monday the 49ers on the road, Sunday the Titans on the road, and then Thursday the Patriots at home. So that first 11 days is going to be pretty brutal from September 9th to September 19th. With all those 11 days, 3 games, that's not a lot of rest in between those first 3. So that's going to be a pretty brutal start. And when you got a starting quarterback in Aaron Rodgers who's 40 years old, who hasn't played a full game in 2 years, hasn't looked like his MVP self in longer, fair reason to be concerned. And again, even if Aaron Rodgers comes in and just plays average, the Jets do have proper reason, I'd say, to be hopeful that they might even make it into the playoffs, even if he doesn't play extraordinary like he always has in the past in his career. But again, the concern is can he stay healthy? In my opinion, that'll be the biggest thing to see, is not only how well can he perform when he's in, but can he stay healthy doing it. So, and yeah, that first 11-day stretch not going to be easy. But so again, the debate around should Saleh have kept Rodgers out on Thursday due to rain. I mean, I get it. It might sound soft in a way, but again, it was also a combined practice. And in some of the other combined practices this week, we've already seen some instances of players maybe getting a little carried away, and some concerns starting to rise about the NFL needing to take a look at things. We've had 2 different practices, in a joint practice with the Giants and Lions, who actually played Thursday. In their joint practice earlier this week, there was a fight that quarterback Daniel Jones actually jumped into. I know a lot of Giants fans and players actually liked it, but it just creates a concern because it was a fight that broke out, and your quarterback's jumping in with these fights. You just don't want people coming out injured from it, and certainly a quarterback getting injured from it would be a huge deal. Now, the NFL did actually hand down fines to both the Lions and the Giants to try to discourage teams from allowing this, but of course, from there, I mean, the fines that were dealt to the 2 teams were very minuscule compared to the amount of money that these organizations make. And as far as what punishment or anything that these teams are going to actually hand down to their players, especially starters, probably not much. They might get a small talking to, stuff like that, but it's probably about all that's going to happen. So the NFL is going to have to be careful and keep an eye on this. There was also an incident, I believe today or yesterday, at Seahawks camp. It wasn't a joint camp on this one, but just practice with the Seahawks alone. And DK Metcalf got mad and ripped somebody's helmet off and was swinging it around. So, some concerning stuff there. That NFL and these teams got to be careful to try to. I mean, obviously you want your guys getting hyped up. Obviously going against each other every day, whether you're on the same team or not. Obviously tensions arise, fights happen in practice at all level of football, but you got to be careful and hope for no injuries to come out of it unnecessarily. Yeah, the last thing with that. The thing that's a little interesting too is Robert Saleh has also hinted at, as far as the other preseason games as well, chances are, obviously we don't expect to see, nobody should expect to see much of Aaron Rodgers or really any starters, in preseason, especially depending on the team. Ones like the Rams, of course, Sean McVay with the Rams, he's the one that really set this trend years ago when he became the Rams coach, of basically not playing starters in preseason at all. And if so, maybe play them for a couple series and that's it. I mean, it used to be that teams generally played their starters at least for a couple series every game, or at least most of the games in the preseason. But then, yeah, a few years ago, Sean McVay kind of popularized the idea of, I don't need to play starters in the preseason at all. And so, since then, you've seen a lot of teams adapt at least some of that. Obviously, we've even shrunk the preseason since then. It used to be 4 games, now it's 3. So, every team's going to do it differently. It's different every year now. But for the Jets and for Aaron Rodgers, again, you want to get him acclimated, get him back in there, but you want to be careful with injury. And so Saleh has mentioned maybe playing Rodgers in the final game of preseason, week 3 against the Giants. Sounds like they're not planning on playing Rodgers at all during the Panthers or against the Commanders this upcoming week. But yeah, as far as that third week, Saleh has also mentioned possibly not even letting Rodgers play at all against the Giants either. So it is possible that Saleh just holds Rodgers out the entire preseason. It sounded like Rodgers was taken a little bit by surprise at the idea that he wasn't even going to play a snap even against the Giants. But, I don't know. There have been a couple signs this offseason of, a little bit of a disconnect between Aaron Rodgers and Robert Saleh. But nonetheless, we'll have to see if Rodgers plays. I certainly wouldn't expect more than maybe a drive or two out of him, maybe even just a couple plays. I'm sure they'll be extra cautious with Rodgers, as you'll see with most starters and especially veterans in the preseason. Now, moving on to other injuries just around the league that are notable. Christian McCaffrey is probably the biggest headline of them all. As of earlier this week, on Tuesday, Kyle Shanahan said that McCaffrey is nerfing a calf strain, and he's listed as questionable on injury reports right now, but not with a long time that he's going to miss or anything. But it is, of course, unlikely that he's going to suit up much at all during the preseason because of this calf injury. So again, another player, starter, very important player in the league, quite possibly not even going to play a snap in the preseason, which, take it or leave it, not necessarily a big deal, but if you're a 49ers fan with Christian McCaffrey, obviously your main hope with McCaffrey is just you want to make sure that you want to hope that this calf heals up. And with calf injuries in recent years, we've seen for some players that the calf injury can end up being a lingering problem. So hopefully McCaffrey can heal up by the start of the season. He probably won't play a snap in preseason football, but by the beginning of the season, September 9th against the Jets, hopefully McCaffrey will be 100% ready to suit up and it won't be a concern. But even if you're not a 49ers fan, if you're a fantasy football fan, for example, that could also be a concern, being that McCaffrey is going in most leagues. He's being drafted on average at number 1 overall. So, obviously a very highly wanted commodity in fantasy for obvious reasons. He's a huge contributor in both the run game and the pass game. 49ers should be an amazing team, as they pretty much always are under Kyle Shanahan, especially with his offense. So McCaffrey, if he's healthy this year, should be one of the best players in the league. So for fantasy, his injury and any potential limitations this season, if that calf doesn't heal up, that could be a concern. So hopefully for McCaffrey that can work out. And then for the Titans with DeAndre Hopkins, unfortunately for them, he's got a knee injury. He's going to miss several weeks. Now, according to their coach, Brian Callahan, he's not going to need surgery, and he's designated to return for the beginning of the season. So that's a good sign for the Titans. I mean, I know Titans not necessarily the most hopeful team this season. For the Titans with Levis at quarterback in his second year, he missed a good chunk of last year. I know the Titans just overall a new coach. It's not like they got high expectations on him this year, but DeAndre Hopkins also getting up there in age for a receiver, having that knee injury to start preseason and miss it, not necessarily something you love to see for that type of a player. Then the last notable injury I wanted to mention, coming out of the Thursday night games for preseason week 1, with the Lions-Giants game. In the Giants game, quarterback Drew Lock, who is currently in the second string position at quarterback for the Giants, he had a left hip injury while playing, came out of the game. On the Giants broadcast, they were saying that he should be okay. So hopefully that doesn't become a lingering problem for Drew Lock. Their backup quarterback, which again, he's just a backup, but with, I believe it was 60 plus NFL quarterbacks that played or started last year. Obviously, there's plenty need for backup quarterbacks, and so all teams are going to want to be able to have the best backup quarterbacks they can available, and as many of them as possible, really. So just to prepare for the worst. So for Drew Lock and the Giants, good news to hear that left hip injury wasn't anything too serious. So that's really the last thing I want to say for main injury headlines that have been going around. Other headlines that have been going on, of course, you may be hearing about Brandon Aiyuk. There's trade talks going on with Brandon Aiyuk wanting more money, him and the 49ers not being really close to an agreement. sounds like the 49ers, people around the building have been not too happy with how he's handling himself at practice. He's holding in. He's doing the hold in rather than what some players do of holding out when they want a new deal. So he's there. He's participating in meetings. He's just not practicing. And I guess again, some people in the organization aren't loving his attitude around the facilities, things like that. But the rumors were before the draft. The rumors were that there were 5 teams around the league that were interested in trading for Aiyuk. The 49ers didn't want to do it then, which makes sense. Obviously, you want to try your best to keep Aiyuk, and I'm sure they were hoping that they could just get him to play this season and worry about his contract next year, but or even just let him become a free agent. But obviously, he doesn't want to do that for fair reason, and so he's doing the hold in. But now, unlike the before the draft where there were 5 teams interested in trading for Aiyuk. Now it sounded like there's only 2, maybe 3 teams. Sounds like the Patriots were one of them. Sounds like they may have been offering the best deal for Aiyuk, but Aiyuk said no, he doesn't want to go to the Patriots. And I believe he has a no trade clause, so he's kind of got power over where the 49ers are going to be able to trade him if they trade him at all. So he's not going to go to the Patriots. The main one that seems to be sticking and being talked about the most is that Aiyuk may end up going to the Steelers. Sounds like they want him. Sounds like he's interested in going there. I've heard rumors that they're close to a deal. It's just a matter of making it official, but I haven't seen anything come out of it yet. The rumors that I was hearing about that are about a day old now, so I guess we'll have to wait and see what ends up happening with him. But obviously for the 49ers, they'd love to keep him. If you lose him, I mean, you got a lot of huge players, but for the 49ers, it really does feel like this year is kind of the last year of this window that they've been in of being able to make the Super Bowl. After this year, Trent Williams is going to be needing more money if they're going to keep him. They're going to need to pay Brock Purdy after this season, and then soon after, they're not far away from needing to worry about Kittle, and then before you know it, Debo and McCaffrey again, all those types of players. So all their keys on their team for the Niners, they're really, this year feels like kind of the final year of the window that they've currently been in. And so for them, you'd love to keep Aiyuk. Now on the other side, of course, for the Steelers, if you could get Aiyuk, that would be a huge help for them on offense, whether it's Russell Wilson or Justin Fields that ends up starting for the better part of the year. Either way, having Aiyuk on the team is certainly a good boost to your wide receiver room. So we'll just have to see where that goes, see if he ends up getting traded soon. And if he does, I'll have a post about it on Instagram and socials at least about it. But last topic I want to talk about today really quick was the first episode of Hard Knocks for the Chicago Bears that came out, premiered on Max, formerly HBO Max, premiered earlier this week, and it was, of course, covering beginning of the preseason workout and really the week leading up to the Hall of Fame game for the Bears. Of course, being they played in that, they kind of get an extra week of preseason, and I don't know, just a couple standouts from the episode. The main thing I've been seeing getting talked about, that the Bears had Nick Saban came by and visited the facilities, talked to Coach Eberflus, talked to the team, and especially the quarterback room. And there was a part of the episode where they showed Matt Eberflus and Nick Saban sitting down in Eberflus's office and just talking. And Nick Saban had a line where he was talking about rookie quarterbacks, and he was saying that his theory for why rookie quarterbacks fail in the NFL is due to the pressure being too high on them to succeed, which certainly makes sense. I mean, a lot of quarterbacks, they come into the NFL, and certainly the old model used to be that they sit at least for a year, but certainly as the years have gone on, it's become more and more of a thing that rookie quarterbacks, especially ones that are drafted early, like Caleb Williams, who's #1 overall pick, they get thrown into the fire right away, and so there's a lot of pressure on them, of course, to succeed, and especially these days, quarterbacks are really only, I mean, fans might be willing to give quarterbacks 2, 3 years, 4 years even, and when talking about it, fans and media might say, oh, only seems fair that he be giving that long. But in truth, teams aren't going to wait that long. And even fans, once they start watching a quarterback that's struggling or doing well, you're not going to take that long to decide. And I know I've heard plenty and I know I've heard plenty that really for NFL teams, when it comes down to the front offices, the GMs, the coaches, when it comes to a rookie quarterback, they generally these days are giving them about 3/4 of the way through that second year starting. So for Caleb Williams, for example, assuming he stays healthy, he's gonna have this year and next year, say till about Thanksgiving-ish, And if he's shown signs of good, by that point, the Bears might decide, okay, he's our guy. If he's, really struggling, hasn't shown enough improvement by then, at that point, they may start deciding, I don't know. Now, again, of course, being that he is the number one overall pick, maybe that'll buy him more time. Maybe it'll buy him a full 2 years, slightly more than 2 years. But again, at least, even if a team doesn't actually fully move on right away, the point is at least behind closed doors, about a year and a half in, a year and 3/4 in to a rookie quarterback's career, generally the front office and the team has decided where they're probably going to go with that quarterback as far as keeping him or moving on in the future. And so it's that quote by Nick Saban certainly makes sense. Now the pressure for Caleb, number one overall pick, there's certainly going to be a lot of pressure. He's in Chicago, a huge market, huge media, passionate fans. Of course, us as Bears fans, we just really haven't ever had a great quarterback in franchise history. Really, haven't had a quarterback ever that's thrown over 4,000 yards in a season, which we're the only franchise to not have a quarterback do that. So, in my opinion, in a way, there's not quite so much of a pressure from the fans in that sense, in that really as long as Caleb Williams is just good to slightly above average, most of us as fans are probably going to fall in love with him, even if maybe the coaches and front office don't right away. Fans are going to be pretty willing to fall in love with him. I mean, just take Justin Fields, for example. I mean, I know it wasn't all of Bears fans, but there was a good contingent of Bears fans all the way up to the very end a few months ago that were saying that they wanted to just keep Justin Fields. I mean, even though Justin Fields obviously isn't very highly valued around the league, at least by front offices and coaches, for fans, for Bears fans, there were a decent amount, at least I don't know if it's necessarily a minority or not, but a pretty vocal group of the fan base online that was pretty ready to keep Justin Fields and trade the first overall pick this year. Thankfully, in my opinion, they didn't go that way. I mean, no disrespect to Justin Fields, but as I've said multiple times on this podcast, I was ready to move on from him personally. And again, wish him all the best with the Steelers. It would be still in a way cool to see him succeed with the Steelers. But back to the Bears. Obviously, I hope that Caleb Williams is amazing. I hope he's the next Mahomes 2.0. But that, even just me saying that kind of hope, therein lies that pressure that Nick Saban is talking about. Now, again, I'm not really holding him to that standard. Some fans might not. Some fans might go really easy on him and fall in love with him really quick. But even if just Bears fans don't put that amount of pressure, the fact that it is a big market, there's going to be a lot of media eyeballs on it. A lot of people are going to be watching it nationally. And so there is going to be that pressure on Caleb to come in really young, really early in and perform at least at a decent level, which, makes sense that could be pretty tough on somebody. So, but yeah, outside of that Nick Saban visit, the other thing that stood out from the first episode with the Bears on Hard Knocks is they showed it a couple times. Jonathan Owens, who's a safety for the Bears now, used to be with the Packers. He is, of course, married to Simone Biles, who is, one of the greatest American gymnasts of all time in the Olympics. All that, plenty of medals, even this year in the last couple weeks. So they showed in the episode, the Bears did give him the week off during that Hall of Fame week, or at least leading up to it. So gave him the week off. He was able to go to Paris, support her there. They also did, at other times during the episode, show him supporting his wife even remotely back from here in the States. So that was an interesting part. They showed a decent amount of, pretty cool. And then the other standout, other than the Hall of Fame game, was Theo Benedict in the episode. Got the nickname of the Eagle. If you watch the episode, you'll see why. He had a pretty iconic, introduction. They showed in the episode a couple times with Theo Benedict, and then also earlier in the episode they showed it with Caleb Williams, kind of having the rookies take turns going up in front of the team in a meeting room and saying a little bit about them, taking turns like singing a song or like doing karaoke or something in front of the team. So for Theo Benedict, made a bit of a name for himself. And yeah, if you watch the episode, you can see why I don't, or even just look up Theo Benedict and you'll find the clip on why. But pretty interesting player, and he stood out because of this scene. But he was a rookie offensive lineman, undrafted this year. He's actually from Canada, came from the University of British Columbia, and he mentioned in the episode he had signed with the Bears, $20,000 as his signing bonus. And I've also found from online that $100,000 guaranteed, and his contract was 3 years, $2,850,000. The unfortunate thing with it he had that iconic intro, but uh, towards the end of that Hall of Fame game, the episode kind of took a bit of a somber tone there, as towards the end of the game during a field goal attempt, Benedict was in on the offensive line blocking, and he kind of took a wrong step and accidentally ended up kind of in the splits, and he ended up suffering a right hamstring injury. And according to Andre Tucker, the Bears' senior director of medicine and player health, he had mentioned in that episode that it was a grade 2 strain, and that they showed him and Eberflus and some of the others at the table kind of reacting and kind of feeling bad for him. Basically, Benedict's going to be out for 4-ish weeks, about a month. But point is, long enough that, unfortunately for Benedict, as a undrafted rookie offensive lineman, he quite likely is not going to make the roster for the Bears by the time the season starts. Currently, if you go and look up the Bears draft chart, he is listed on the offensive line both at left tackle and right guard, but he's listed all the way down at the fourth slot for both of those positions. So not very high on the depth chart, of course. And with that injury, kind of unfortunate. He likely won't be on the Bears roster for very long, but hey, he at least got that $20,000 signing bonus, and sounds like he may also get a 100 grand on the way out, at least guaranteed. I'm not too sure. And there's guaranteed, and then there's fully guaranteed. There's things with that in these NFL contracts that can be kind of weird, especially the way they're covered. But either way, kind of unfortunate. Benedict, I was reading, he was undrafted in the NFL draft, but in the CFL draft in Canada, where he's from, he did get drafted, actually. So there's a possibility that maybe he heals up, gets cut by the Bears, and if he doesn't end up just on a practice squad or something for somebody here in the NFL, maybe he goes and plays in the Canadian League instead. But so a bit of a somber tone there at the end of the episode, but I felt like it was kind of appropriate. Again, this show, I think these shows, whether it's the receiver shows, the quarterback, with Netflix, or these hard knock shows, it's certainly just kind of interesting to see a little bit of the behind the scenes, both at the facilities, at home, at these games, whatever. Get to see some of the behind the scenes for people in the staff and for the players, some of the stuff that goes on. It makes the game a little bit more human. So I'm definitely excited to watch more of the Hard Knocks show as preseason goes on, and of course more of the preseason as well. Now today, being Friday, we do have some more preseason games coming your way. Now, if you have NFL Plus, you'll be able to get all of them. One of the games will be on NFL Network. That'll be the Texans at the Steelers. That game will start at 5 p.m. Mountain Time, as well as the Falcons at the Dolphins at 5 p.m. And then at 5:30, there'll be the Eagles at the Ravens. That'll be starting at 5:30 Mountain Time. So three different preseason games. Again, it'll depend on each team and what players they've got, how senior they are, but quite possible you might be able to, if you catch the beginning of those games, you might see starters out there for the first series or two, so that could be interesting. But yeah, we got those 3 games Friday, got a bunch of games Saturday, and then Sunday this week, 2 games. I'll probably have an episode coming out either Monday, sometime earlier this upcoming week. I may start doing some fantasy-related episodes, so if you're a fan of NFL fantasy football, stay tuned for those. So excited for that. Thank you for watching, and you have a great week.